Welcome to Tiny Hands Big Dreams here in the Ecuadorian homestead. So we're going to do a crime safety update. It's been
in May.
We did one in May, so it's about 9 months. Things change everywhere. People are asking. Information gets kind of stale. We're going to do another one. So we're going to give kind of the bird's eye view of what's going on, as probably from the interest of you're looking to move here. You're like, how safe is it? Okay.
Kind of go over the whole country as we see reported. Of course, things may be different. We only know as much as we can read about.
It's true.
And then there's some more local to us in the southern part of the country that we want to touch on, that we have a little bit more knowledge about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So first is Ecuador, while not a huge country, is large in the sense of how long it takes to get from place to place.
Yep.
And it's divided into zones. So zonal areas are not provinces, they're
Bigger than provinces.
They're zonal areas. And some governing is done through zonal areas. But unfortunately, crime statistics that are referenced that we're finding are in zone basis, which...
Yeah, some of them are.
So Zone 7, where we are, is also Loja, is also Vilca, is also Zumba, is also Machala on the coast. It's the whole head of the chicken. You have to think of Ecuador as an upside-down chicken. I'm sorry, you can never see it any other way now. It's like that. But once you understand it's an upside-down chicken, I can now reference the chicken, and you can know exactly an area. So the whole head of the chicken
is Zone 7.
Is Zone 7.
So we'll talk about zones later, but there's knowing the zones, like they're very large areas,
and it's
so it can make it a little bit different.
Like everywhere else. We've lived in Tennessee, Colorado, Washington. Some parts are very different from other parts,
and they don't necessarily have to be very far away.
No. So like if you go across Zone 7, I think it's probably 12 or 14 hours or something to like drive that. Like it's...
And when you look
long.
at the map, it's very, very small.
You're like, oh, it's only...
But because here, everything's a mountain road and up and around, and it's not like it is in, I don't know, Kansas. So it is different. It takes much longer to get from point A to point B, which definitely influences crime and the different areas.
Right. When there's a problem in one area, it's not like it spreads out. It tends to be...
Yeah. So I guess the first thing is, where is the worst of the crime? It is still on the coast and in the big cities, and I guess along the borders, Colombia and Peru.
Yeah,
those are the outline of the chicken, and then you got your big cities down the middle.
Right. So Guayaquil has some fairly serious problems.
Guayaquil is both coast and big city.
Right, and port city. It gets the trifecta there. We see a lot of reports of people who live there, like, they really don't want to be there, especially younger people. They're like, if I could move, I would. Small robbery stuff's common. There's a lot of
violent crime.
There's a lot of violence. There's also a lot of cartel activity, which then, once you have cartel henchmen, can you call them henchmen?
Let's call them henchmen.
Right, and they don't have a specific task for the day. They sort of run amok and do small crimes and things.
Now, there is a jurisdiction right outside of Guayaquil. I think it might actually be part of Guayaquil.
It is. It's on the north side.
Sambarondo?
Sure.
Sorry. Which is actually the most dangerous jurisdiction in the entire country. And it's very small.
Yeah.
I mean, a jurisdiction, I don't know the exact size of it, but it's almost like a neighborhood.
Yeah.
Or
it'd be like a city... sort of like a small city sort of footprint.
Oh, it's much smaller than that. Because I mean, if you look at Guayaquil as a big city, well,
Guayaquil's a big city.
Yeah.
But if you look at like
small town,
like your city limit kind of like.
But for that area to then be the most dangerous.
Yeah.
In the entire country, says something. So Guayaquil is, I would say, avoid at all costs. We had someone ask to come visit. Do you fly into Guayaquil or Quito? I'm like, just avoid Guayaquil altogether.
Yeah.
Just avoid it. Quito is not perfect, but I think Guayaquil is by far the most dangerous place.
Yeah. Quito has its own issues. It sees its share of
but it's a big city, and I think it doesn't matter where you are. A big city is going to collect criminals.
Yeah.
Now, to talk about what kind of crime is happening in the majority of Ecuador, like on a large scale. I read as many news articles as I can find and translate. It looks like the majority of it is cartel on cartel. Even the things that at first I'm like, oh, it's cartel against citizen. Turns out that citizen was not citizen, either was not citizen at all, or was also involved in drugs, in crime, or their family was, or somehow related to.
Or some other illicit business
which is some
dealing.
sort of relation to cartels.
Yeah.
Or it becomes the political cartels. There was the one on the beach in somewhere on the coast.
Yeah, so that's now 2 on the beach. One was a couple weeks ago, and it was a local, somebody in charge of some part of the government who was assassinated on a beach. And then we just had another one that just popped up where 2 dudes jumped off a motorcycle, ran into the water, and started shooting at people. And there's a photo of them, and like one still has his motorcycle helmet on, the other's got like a baseball hat and a hoodie. It's a grainy photo. And I'm like, there's no way that wasn't a targeted killing. They were watching somebody they knew were out in the water.
So, was that related to, I mean, I'm sure it was related to the cartels. Pretty much, honestly, almost all crime is.
Yeah.
The very violent crime is related to cartels.
And we'll get into what's being done about that in a little bit. And there is movement towards that.
But when I know a lot of people talk about how dangerous it is in Ecuador, and while we are very aware of the crime, your average person is a lot less likely to be involved in it than if you are doing something you shouldn't be doing.
If you exclude...
Or you know someone who does, or you're...
If you exclude anybody who is involved in some sort of illicit activity...
Or whose uncle is.
Right. From the crime statistic, all of a sudden those numbers would be like a tiny fraction thereof.
And now, instead of being such a dangerous country on a world scale, you'd be on a much different end of that. So it's...
Yeah, well, there is, of course, hotspots. Like I said, I used to live in the Bay Area, San Francisco area, California. I used to work in a lot of neighborhoods. I used to travel around. I used to work with low-income programs and assistance. There were neighborhoods that had me soil my underwear. My life was in danger many, like guns pointed at me, kind of in danger.
And you were just a person.
I was a person coming to help.
So when you look at it in that way...
Yeah. I was literally giving away free money and things, and sometimes that's the only thing that saved me, but it's convincing them of that before something happened. So there's a lot more dangerousness in some American cities. I would not go there at all in certain places.
Now, the other thing that's happening a lot is targets in expat communities. We've talked about this before. We will continue to talk about this because it's important. A lot of the people who watch our videos are looking to move here as an expat. We are going to caution against moving to an expat hotspot.
So basically what you become is a congregation of soft, rich targets.
That doesn't mean you're really rich. We're not really rich.
Or
but
intentionally
we would still
soft.
Be a target.
But you're, by relative standards, by local standards, you are rich. Just to move here, like, is a huge expense.
To have a computer,
a lot of Ecuadorians never get that. And then you get to, you're unarmed by law. You probably brought a bunch of stuff from the US that doesn't even make it. Like, you're
probably unaware. These are all assumptions made, but usually true.
And there's a bunch of you around. Yeah. So you've become a big, rich target. Now,
who's targeting you? I still think a lot of it's cartels.
It is.
And it is those henchmen, those lower level board wannabe cartel members. that
Yep.
are probably causing a lot of the trouble. But
Now there is some coordinated, sophisticated attacks that we've heard of.
there were some in Cotopaxi.
Yep.
That were very clearly a very organized group. They were violent. These are all basically home invasions, but a lot of them turn violent. I think I think everything we've heard starts as a home invasion.
Yeah.
And turns violent.
Yeah. So we've heard from the south side, the border of Peru, is a problem area hotspot, Zumba. Now, lovely place, beautiful real estate. Trust me, we looked at it. It's cheap, it's lovely, the weather's great. It's really far from really anything, but because of its proximity to Peru, there is a ton of crime that is pushing up from Peru, where it apparently resides.
Now, I also think it being so far away from the next biggest city, which would be Loja, which is a very long way away, many hours.
Oh, it's like a 6 or 8 hour drive on a crappy road.
It also means there is less police presence in Zumba and the area. There just is.
There just is. So we've heard about like down there that they're even they're watching certain people who are more affluent. They watch their house. They see when they're home. They use drones to do reconnaissance. They're getting more sophisticated. And the people we know that live down in that area maintain a very low profile. They do not have flashy things. They don't.
And this is not an expat hub.
No.
At all. It is just people in general. It is not. I don't think it is anywhere related just to who you are. It is all people.
There's very few non-Ecuadorians down there, but we're told that no, would not recommend moving to that area at all.
Yeah.
For any reason.
Now, we have spoken about Vilcabamba to varying responses. We're still going to continue to talk about it.
We're not Vilca haters.
We're not.
We have friends there.
We don't like Vilcabamba, though. We'll just be honest.
We don't like it. It's not our cup of tea. There is some really cool and interesting people that have moved there.
But aside from us not liking it on just personal levels, because everyone has places they like and don't like, the crime is very concerning and continues to get worse.
It is a very big congregation of very wealthy foreigners. Crime has gotten worse. Home invasions, murders. It's up to apparently people are just being robbed in the daytime in the streets. Now, this is secondhand. This did not happen to us, but it comes from someone who is there, and they said no. It's actually worse than we talk every so often. He goes, it's getting worse. Okay.
I was hoping it was getting better. It is very hard for us to find information about Vilcabamba.
Sure.
It's a small area. It's a small town. It doesn't make national news.
You could search all you want on the Google. You're never going to find anything. The only times you're going to find it is in different Facebook groups. And unfortunately,
you have to live in Vilcabamba to be part of those groups.
If you don't live in Vilca, they don't let you in the groups. You're not allowed to know about what happens in Vilca, which I find distasteful.
It's pretty common.
It may be, but
it is.
If I wanted to move somewhere, I would want to join the groups and things and be part of it and like understand what's going on and like try to be.
And you may be able to. To be fair, I've never tried.
Educated about a place.
I've never tried to join one.
No, we did actually, and then it didn't. Yeah, we weren't allowed.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
So, no. Vilca's having a hard time.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, Cotopaxi, which is another sort of large group of foreigners.
Yeah.
That is sort of the northern Vilcabamba, I guess. It's a different climate. It's a different culture. I don't know a lot about it, but I know that there have been a huge uptick in crime there, which sort of goes to show you it's not Vilcabamba specific, because part of it's like, well, maybe it's proximity to Peru, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. Well, they're having the same problems there.
Yeah. So
I think that sort of proves our point on the large collection of foreigners, and it's unfortunate. I mean, I'm not blaming the foreigners. It's just really unfortunate. but it's something to be aware of.
You see the same thing, like if I go back to the Bay Area, you have a bunch of gang-related people who come over from the Oakland side of the Bay, Hood, it's Hood, and they'll come over to San Francisco in the peninsula, like, as that's their job. They come over, they rob people, they break into cars, they do things, and then they just drive back every night. And that is because there is simply more wealth over there to take.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to talk about zones?
Yeah.
Zones.
So the zones, we'll throw the map up.
Yeah.
Map.
That's useful because I had no idea what the zones were, to be honest.
No, we had to look them up. They're not intuitive. Again, not super useful for crime statistics because it includes such a wide geography of area. To include the coast and Zumba, like they're, oh my God, they're a world apart.
Us.
And us.
And Loha.
Right. So if you were to include it by similar like areas, people, things, I don't know. I would do it differently, but that's just the way it is. So the Oriente, where we are.
So we had the quote we were gonna share.
Oh.
Right?
We have, yeah. There is some statistics. Let's see.
And where is this from? You found this random
The
information.
Cuenca Dispatch.
Oh, that's good.
Which is a pretty large publication. They've seen a crime increase nationwide. Certain regions are worse. Let's see. Increase in 2025, but for 2020, for the beginning of 2025, I guess, there's been significant increases. There's been like a surge. I guess 2024 like dropped a bit from 2023, and now it's like picked up. One could argue that there's a lot of political things going on, and that's driving it. So they saw Zone 3 up basically 3.5 times in murders. Zone 7, which is down where we are, again 3.5 times. Zone 4, 1.5 times more. Zone 8 went up by 1/3. Now, those numbers are relative.
I was surprised at our zone because I would not have expected that at all.
But again, because it's a percentage increase.
Was it 3?
If there was 3 murders the month last year, and now there's 9, you're like, that's 300% more. But it is still only 9. So again,
in a huge geographical area.
Yeah, statistics can be misleading, but it is a relative increase, at least for the time period. Guayaquil, they say, is definitely the hot spot. Organized crime, gangs, targeted assassinations, extortion, and kidnappings. Now, we have also heard about that.
Kidnappings has become quite the thing.
If you simply hold a rich person, or a person from a richer place, or who looks more affluent, then you can extort money out of their family.
Yeah, a lot of it is actually literally children being kidnapped.
So they're easier.
Well,
they're smaller.
Also, parents care more. Let's just be like, everyone cares more when it's a child kidnapped.
That's true.
So people are going to do more about it, give them more money, etc. Or political favor, or look the other way, or whatever it is.
Yeah, we've also heard about that in the south part, close to the Peru border, the Zumba side, that there has been, and not just of foreigners, but also even of locals, because there's just not as many people there to prey on. It's kind of slim pickings. It's just a lower population area, so you kind of go after what's there.
Yeah. All right, so
I don't know that I just justified like kidnapping and extortion.
I think you did a little
I think
bit,
I did.
We'll just look past that.
Okay. For the practicality, like, no, sorry.
Oh. All right. So there are things going on in this country politically, rather large things, that are affecting, hopefully going to affect, all of these problems.
Yeah. Presidential election is underway. We're round 1 is done. So it is now Noboa and
I forgot her name. The other one.
Right, some other chick who is the protege of basically the socialist Correa,
Yeah.
who...
It's now called Correaism.
Right. He has his own like little brand of socialism that wasn't really socialism.
And now it's a whole political
sort
party.
of a very, most people say, corrupt.
He's literally
I'm gonna go with most people say he's in jail.
Put away for corruption.
Yeah, and a lot of his his officers. So this is his protege that used to work with him that's running against Noboa. What we've seen of Noboa is he is going after the cartels. He's using the military.
He has from literally day one.
He goes hard. But we saw mayor, boom, they just immediately like arrest and pulled a mayor out of a town and like Vilcabamba assigned a new one.
Well, and then they've been doing raids and arrests.
Oh yeah.
So many officials, lawyers, mayors.
His vice president, Abad, what's her name?
Abad.
His original vice president that he had to like summarily just replace because I guess he found her connected to something icky. Her lawyer got raided.
Her son's lawyer.
It said her and her son's lawyer.
Yeah, maybe. Translations are tricky.
Right. And so the lawyer gets caught with a freaking stockpile. Now, I used to love a lot of guns and ammunition things. I had a collection. Oh no, dude's got like chests and crates and like, what, are you supplying the Ukraine here? Like, dude, what's going on? And then and guns and things and illegal ones even. And then, now he's arrested. He's probably supplying them to the cartel. I don't know that, but
these are the kind of things
you doing with all that
on a regular basis.
So these people are all of a sudden getting raided and arrested and found out and things, and you're watching people just all of a sudden make the news of like, oh, you were super corrupt thing involved in activities. Boom. This looks like direct action from the top down, rooting out corruption.
And while
it's encouraging,
and while some people I know. Corruption is just like, oh, well, it's just political corruption. Everywhere has political corruption. It's true. Everywhere has political corruption. But here, 99% of the corruption has to do with cartels. Well, the cartels is clearly the driving force of all crime, violent and otherwise, in the country. Sure, there's going to be your random people who steal things.
Look, there's delinquency, degeneracy, there's like youth problem. It
happens everywhere.
Lack of jobs, there's poor... Then there's the other level of cartel activity.
And that is most of the crime in this country.
It is. Now, there is also a link with cartel activity and gold mining.
Yep.
So there's a ton of illegal gold mining. And we've also seen a lot of movement towards going after all of this gold mining, artisanal mining.
That would be the illegal mines?
Which sounds like some lovely little person baking like artisanal like muffins or something.
I know.
Artisanal mining. There's a lot of like where people will just go and they have like a gold pan or a little sluice in the thing.
No
and
one really cares about that.
Nobody really cares. Then they move in.
I heard illegal mining. That's kind of what I pictured. I was oh, it's like sneaky off.
Excavators, bulldozers, huge diesel water pumps.
We actually did a whole video on it.
Massive like sluices. They're for sale all up and down the highway.
So I thought for sure the things that are openly on the big river and for sale couldn't possibly be illegal.
So I went to a city meeting, which was really interesting and entertaining, learned some things. And one of them was there is a big movement locally to go after all the illegal mining that's happening in the river because it's blatant. And they're going to like seize equipment and shut those down. And I've actually seen less. Like it just sort of, a lot of it stopped.
It might be. It may also be the fact that it's the rainy season and being in the river means your equipment washes away. I'm unsure. I did read some things about Noboa also making moves to crack down on the illegal mining.
So,
because it is very disruptive to the environment and to the local communities.
The problem with the illegal mining, one, is just the environmental destruction, which is significant. But then the cartel comes in, you're in a fixed location, you have valuable thing.
Yep.
You're going to pay them for protection. They're going to insist. So now you have this supply chain of coming to like, you know, otherwise I don't know what they're going to do. It's an age-old practice.
And then that just brings problems to that community wherever that mining is going on.
So if you can get rid of the mining, the cartel has no reason to go there. They're not going to come and steal corn.
Yeah.
Or passion fruit, although it's delightful and you should because it's so good.
Oh boy.
I'm sorry.
You done?
Yep.
Okay. A small detail thing that I read. Loha, in particular, is going to be doing immigration status checks, specifically of people who are standing around on street corners and intersections and in the road sometimes asking for money. Now, I'm sure that some of these people are lovely. I'm sure some are Ecuadorian citizens. I don't think they all are.
There was all of a sudden a big influx of people who look physically different, and they're all of a sudden standing there in an intersection and they're juggling knives and doing things, and they got like a radio, and we're like,
this was something we did not. Or are they wanting to wash your windshield?
oh yeah.
They annoy me.
You have to like argue with them. Don't you dare get away from my windshield.
You got really mad once. We squirted it. I was mad about it.
I wish I had a squirt gun. I'll squirt you back.
Now, this was something we did not see. I don't know how many years ago now. I've lost track. 5, 6?
Yeah.
However many years ago we were here the first time. I remember commenting on, we see no one on the streets of Loja asking for money or doing anything.
You occasionally would see a dude with no legs in a wheelchair.
I was just going to say, there was the one guy with no legs and he was just like able to get around without a wheelchair. And I'm like, dude, I'll give you money. Like,
and he just like, he would hang out like, look, like clearly no legs, be like, can you help a brother out?
Okay,
it happens. Fair. That is the Ecuadorian like safety net of like,
but
people...
it has increased, and I notice it in Zaza as well.
Yeah.
That it has increased, and I don't think they're Ecuadorian, simply by visual cues.
Yeah, there is one guy with no legs, old guy. We always see him in a wheelchair. But there's
a few that we see regularly, even out here.
Mostly,
like, you're not.
Mostly, I think it's Venezuelans, because Venezuela went socialist and then their economy tanked out. So they're sort of fleeing to survive. I can't blame them for that. But if you're in the country illegally, the police are now going to ask you for your
immigration status,
and deport you if you're not.
Because, and I know people will say, well, you should. Ecuador has historically not had a problem with that, with the vagrants and the homeless and the things, because there was deportation. There was a stricter immigration.
Yeah, we always get the comment of like, oh, well, the United States is so much worse than that.
Yeah, I know.
Well, if the United States had done the same thing of going and checking people's immigration status and keeping people out, then everybody would be like, well, don't go to Ecuador because they'll just kick you back out, and then there's no problem. And then it's actually nice and clean. You're like, hey, let's move there because it's nice.
So, Noboa did actually, quite a while ago, reinstate, overturn, I can't remember which way it's termed, so people can be deported again.
Yeah,
I guess no one could for a while.
They changed it so they just threw you into the legal system in limbo, and you could appeal, and you could thing, and you could say, well, I have human rights of movement of this and that. You changed it to be like... El Salvador kind of did the same thing, and they went from the worst to like almost the best in the entire Western Hemisphere for crime. You should watch El Salvador. Literally, their economy is taking off. Happiness, security, everything about that country is just skyrocketing because someone came in and just said, no more.
Noboa said he was trying to model, I think it was specifically the prison systems here, off of El Salvador.
Yeah.
Because they're a mess here. It's a mess. I'm like, okay, well, you look at who's doing a really good job, and you're like, how do I do that?
Yeah. I saw a thing on El Salvador's prison systems, and while they have some famous ones for these super hardened, like, gang
dudes, there's no hope for you. You just
tattoos all over them. Like, they've been killing people since they were 12. Nope. Rats in a cage. Like, that's the end of you.
Can't help you.
For all the lesser ones, they have this huge retraining program.
Well, they also means they separate them because they should never be together.
There's a goat in a tree.
There's a goat in a tree. A little bit. Okay.
Yeah, don't learn from the hardened criminals. Don't have to interface with them. Learn to go the other way. And they're doing that. Huge success story. El Salvador doesn't get enough press.
So that was just a small thing. It does mean if you are in Loja and probably other cities, as a foreigner, especially if you are, have been times where we've been in funky limbo between like visitor visa and temporary visa and temporary visa and permanent visa and all these things. You need to have some sort of documentation that says you are allowed to be here.
Yep.
If you have a cedula, I think that's all you need.
Yep.
If you don't have a cedula yet because you're in like tourist visa land or something,
carry a copy.
Carry a copy of what?
Your visa.
No, if you don't have a visa.
Oh.
I'm saying if you're I guess you'd have some sort of, I don't know, do you get a visitor visa like paperwork thing?
No, your passport stamp.
So to take a copy of your visa,
a copy of your passport and your stamp.
Yeah.
And be like, you don't have to carry your passport. I mean, they say you should, but
I've also had people say you shouldn't.
Yeah, it's real hard to get replaced and get wet.
I wouldn't.
The police are pretty accommodating. You'd be like, look, here's the thing. They'll look up your name.
They're not looking to deport someone from the U.S. or Canada or somewhere.
You got a copy thing. They'd be like, it's great. You're good.
Yeah. But it's just something to keep in mind.
They can look your name up. Everyone has cell phone access to the whole government database. It's happened. I didn't have my ID, my thing, this stuff. They look it up. And they're like, yep, okay, we got you. You're good. All right.
And just something to be aware of.
I've never had a problem.
Okay. So we've talked about all the places in Ecuador that are terrible.
Yeah.
And bad and scary. What about our area? What about the Southern Oriente?
Yeah. We like it.
Has our opinion of the crime and safety here changed?
No. There was a touch, like they say Loja has gotten slightly worse.
But that's not us.
And it's also like, is it bad enough to be of concern?
Well, but again, that isn't
isn't
our
here.
area. So I mean specifically like our area.
there's nothing out here.
Now I think the only thing would be there is some out here in the general area because of the illegal mining. So there is a bit of cartel
over in the valley that has gold in the soil.
Yes.
Our valley has no gold.
No.
If you're watching this video and you're going to come and try to there's nothing here.
Sorry, there actually isn't.
No, we checked. We had it tested.
There is none. Is it even with that little bit of potential cartel, influence? Because I think it's going to be in every part of the country to some degree. I still think, and I believe the statistics show that this is the safest area.
Yeah.
In the entire country.
Yeah, there's so little crime. We just don't even hear about any of it. We don't see any of it. I was at the market yesterday. I had to go by myself because she was home with the child sick, and all of a sudden I heard yelling and things, and I'm like, oh my god, what's going on?
It's rarely yelling. And
then there's people looking and this and that, and I realized a lady had handed her baby to her little daughter to hold while she did something, because she was I bought something from her while she was nursing the child. Which is, on breastfeeding, people just do it here. It's not a thing. Yeah. I know, it's like you're allowed to we're at the market, she's literally breastfeeding the child as she's helping me buy some peppers or something, because that was her stand. I'm like, okay. No, it's just a thing. She handed the kid over, and the girl dropped the child. Boom, and I just hear her screaming, like, ah! And I couldn't figure out what was going on, and then all of a sudden I saw her pick the child up, dirt on his face, and brushed it off. That's the worst I've seen here.
That is actually probably no. We saw the one older guy get slightly tapped by the motorcycle.
Oh yeah.
Which was sort of just
dude
was kind of rude about it. Like, he could have stopped and made sure the guy was okay.
Yeah.
Literally, that's about it.
Yeah.
There's a few just accidents. As far as legitimate crime, nothing.
I don't know.
Police have said there's nothing
anywhere in the world that's less, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. You walk around town, everything is just laid out. There's no crime. People don't steal stuff. There's no
bars on the windows.
There's no bars in the windows. There's no plexiglass over all of the hair care products in stores.
Well, now there is some of that in other areas of the country. The coast has a lot of bars over
Not
windows.
a place where we live.
No, I remember we specifically took our little like Google like Street View tour before we ever came here.
That's
like,
fun.
Well, that place has a lot of bars on the windows.
And you just click down the
I don't
street
like
and that
that.
street and that street, and they're like, there's random drunk dudes sitting on the thing, like half naked, just a pair of like shorts on, and there's bars and there's trash, and you're like,
maybe not that
not
area.
there. Let's look here. We do a lot of like world
It's really
tourism.
interesting. It's if you're interested in moving here, it's actually really useful to just like poke around Ecuador and like street view a bunch of places.
I think part of the problem may be with the, at least I don't know about the north, but the whole southern area of Ecuador, which used to not have accurate Google Maps.
Now it does.
It was very low resolution. You couldn't see squiggly squat. Like there's just brown and green. You couldn't see roads. Like it was, nope, Google's updated it. The last one I saw was late 2024. They have done high resolution imaging. You can see down to cars, color of car truck. Not the most accurate, but
pretty good.
Way better than it used to be. Which means you can now see all of the little tiny roads and houses and outbuildings and things and
Probably
stuff.
Isn't good for crime.
Which is probably helping criminals explore the countryside a little better, rather than simply being obfuscated in
random green.
In the nature. Yeah. We like being obfuscated in the random green.
So that's our area. And by our area, I mean the Oriente.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not talking about northern when you get into like the Napa region. That also has some crime issues because that's near Quito. Because of where we are, our closest city, which isn't a huge, Loja's big, but not that big. It's 4 hours away.
Loja?
Yeah.
3 if you drive really fast.
Not the van?
Not our van.
At least 4 for us.
I've made it in 3.5. Man, that pedal never left the floor.
On a good day. So it is a ways away. It is also over a pass. There's also not as much crime in Loja to start with.
There is also...
You're just isolated.
They tend to do checkpoints around the inlet and outlet roads to the city. So like Loja, if you're leaving Loja...
north or south.
Yeah, to the different ways, they have transito like checkpoints that they randomly sort of like inhabit and like check your documentation.
Yeah, or even the police will take up those because transito will only do traffic related things and then police will do other things.
Yeah.
Not 100% clear always on that. They don't.
Police will check on you. Transito will worry about like you have a license and is the car registered.
Yeah, but they don't care if you're doing something illegal outside of that.
They would have to call somebody else to come and deal with that.
But yeah, I just think that where we are is isolated in the correct ways. Yes, we are close to Peru, but the Peruvian border along this side is
good luck.
Like there's
mountain,
no actual
trees,
entry and exit anywhere.
It would be a cool like adventure.
But as far
survival
as crime, it's just never gonna come across this way. So we're pushed up against wilderness jungle on one side.
We're protected by the landscape.
And then we have the Andes on the other. So the Orient kind of lives between like Peru and the Andes. And there just isn't, we're just kind of isolated.
Yeah.
And it's awesome.
Yeah.
So
the weather is nice, the land is cheap, the people are friendly.
We highly recommend it. But not too many people.
Only nice people.
And we'll spread out in the area. So there's no target. So someone asked, do we still say that Ecuador is a good place to move? Would we change our minds? Were we wrong about it? All of these things. Because the crime has gone up.
Oh, yeah. No, I absolutely still would. I wouldn't change anything. Again, you have to look at, like, what does that statistic really mean? And does it actually affect you or it? It's almost all cartel-related things, and it's all somewhere else. If I look at crime here where we've moved, it's almost nothing. It's always been almost nothing. It's probably going to continue to be mostly nothing. No, I wouldn't change anything. That being said, I see like weird instability, problems, political shenanigans going on all over the world. Like there's the potential of wars in some places. There's refugees and strife
So
and
just sort of a mess.
and there's a lot of people living in a very
Tumultuous?
non-content sort of way.
It's very tumultuous.
Tumultuous, sure. There's malcontent.
No content.
You could live here very peacefully and very lovely and only worry about what you have to do and the things around you and the nature and like honestly, that's what we do. Yeah. And we'll get into some of there's some other really interesting tidbits. We're going to save it for something about Ecuador that's not crime
We're just sort
or
of collecting
safety.
random bits of
But there's
information.
some really cool things. I think we're going to start a new series called
I don't know why we have so many series. We're silly.
if you look at all of our videos, we have a bunch of series. We have Controversial Conversations.
Chew the cud.
We have Chew the Cud, which is just we sit around and discuss. If you didn't know that that's what we called those things, we just sit around and like
Talk about
mull
it.
over certain subjects and talk about a thing.
We have the
called
Why
Chew the Cud.
Ecuador series.
Why Ecuador?
Yeah.
And then we got a new one called. You named it.
Oh no, what did I name it?
I think it was like You Go Ecuador.
It was Way to Go Ecuador.
Way to go Ecuador.
That's right. We say that a lot. I've been sort of
There's occasionally we
aware
see
of the
something
news
pop up or new law
Yeah, way to
thing
go.
or like a push to like something actually for the people, like that literally is just a helpful thing, a pushback against corporations, things, something.
Way to go Ecuador.
Way to go Ecuador. So we'll do one of those compilation
soon, yeah.
tidbits sometime soon.
Yeah. So we would still, we're still happy here. We still think this was the right choice.
Yeah.
We still feel incredibly safe.
I'm-
We know that there are certain people in our lives personally who might be greatly concerned about our well-being based off of news.
I can tell you right now, the weather's better here than where you are.
It's true. But
Where it's always lovely and then sometimes it rains.
true. But and I know people are concerned. It's like, oh well.
Have you ever
the-
seen her in anything other than a sleeveless shirt? Ever?
I know people are concerned about like, well, the news says it's so unsafe, it's so dangerous, and it's this and it's that. And there's so much violent crime.
You're gonna get attacked by men with machete.
Yeah, sometimes. It's mostly just the racket, though.
Oh yeah, that's me.
That's there. I genuinely have never felt safer.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
Never.
You see people walking around. Usually it's old women with machetes, like just walking up and down the road doing things. That is not considered a weapon here.
No, it's so
It is
funny.
a farm tool. Literally, like
Sometimes
people
it's
like
someone's entire job.
yeah, they literally
They
like
have a
the
machete and
So
that
you
is their
you
job.
walk up to people, thing this that, and they're just holding a machete, and they're just like, never is it considered that is like, oh, I should be worried. You're holding a giant machete. Like, no, that's not used for violence. It's just not.
No.
It means you do work, and it's sort of like, oh, good job, you're clearing some land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's our update on crime.
Crime and safety. Yeah. So if you haven't subscribed, we do these every so often. You should subscribe if you want to hear about the next one, if you're interested. We also have a Substack where we put spicier bits that don't go on the
Spicy
YouTube.
bits.
The spicy bits of talkings the YouTube doesn't like. Please, it's a link below. Check out our Substack. There's also a newsletter. I'm not even going to tell you what it is. It's exciting, and you want it. It's cool. It'll make you smile, and there's a tasty tidbit at the end. It's a surprise. Just go and get the newsletter. It's free.
Just email us.
Email us.
I can't figure out. YouTube doesn't like my little subscribe button. So
Yeah.
Just email us. I'll put you on the list.
So, there you go. Well, have a good one. I hope things are as good where you are as it is here. And see you for the next one.
Time! Shoot master! Shoot master! Shoot master!
Hey.
Hey.